What if Kizaru actually killed Luffy on Egghead? Kizaru's arrival on Egghead Island was a game changer. Within minutes, he took down Sentomaru, shattered the island's defenses, and began his advance toward Vegapunk. But when he encountered Luffy, everything paused. Snake Man vs. Light, a clash of overwhelming speed, unpredictable power, and raw determination. But let's ask the question nobody wants to imagine. What if Kizaru had actually killed Luffy? What would have happened to the Straw Hats? What would become of the world? And what kind of legacy would Luffy leave behind if it ended here? The fight key events. Kizaru's entrance onto Egghead was nothing short of overwhelming. He was calm, collected, and lethal. He moved with intent, yet without urgency, as though the outcome was already decided. Sentomaru, a capable fighter and Vegapunk's bodyguard, was taken out in seconds. A single blow at light speed done. That alone sent a message. No one here could stop him. Luffy, naturally, didn't back down. He entered Snake Man form to try to keep up. His fists whipped through the air at high speed, aiming to tag a target that moved faster than thought. But even in Snake Man, even with his growth, after Wano Luffy struggled. Kizaru's attacks were sharper, faster, more precise. One moment, Luffy had the upper hand. The next, he was sent crashing into the Frontier Dome. It wasn't just a difficult fight, it was a warning. Kizaru wasn't like Katakuri. He wasn't like Doflamingo. He wasn't even like Kaido. He was clinical. He didn't fight with passion, but with terrifying indifference. And that's what made him so dangerous. Why didn't Kizaru kill Luffy? On paper, Kizaru had everything going for him. He's an Admiral. His Pika Pika no Mi grants him the speed of light and devastating power. His experience spans decades. Luffy, by comparison, was still learning to master Gear 5. So why did Kizaru lose? The answer isn't in strength, it's in hesitation. Kizaru didn't fight like someone who wanted to win. His blows lacked killing intent. His words revealed reluctance. I don't really want to be here. This mission feels wrong. Even when he had Luffy at his mercy, he hesitated. That hesitation, that emotional distance cost him everything. Luffy, by contrast, was fighting with his entire soul. Not for power, not for glory, but for his friends, for Vegapunk, for the future. And in the world of One Piece, purpose often beats power. But what if he had finished the job? Let's imagine a darker timeline, one where Kizaru didn't hesitate. One decisive blow, a flash of light. Luffy's heart stops. What happens next? Immediate fallout. The Straw Hat collapse. The Straw Hats don't just lose their captain, they lose their core. Luffy isn't just a fighter. He's their leader, their spark, the glue holding together a crew of wildly different people with wildly different pasts. Without him, everything fractures. Zoro would fight on, perhaps even take command. But guilt would consume him. Sanji would burn with rage, possibly throwing himself into battle recklessly. Nami, Robin, and Chopper would be devastated. Frankie and Jinbei might try to regroup the crew, but what's left to lead? The death of Luffy wouldn't just demoralize them, it could break them permanently. They came together because of him. Without him, they scatter. The revolutionary response news of Luffy's death would spread like wildfire. And in the shadows, Monkey D. Dragon would hear that his son has been killed by a Marine Admiral. Dragon has always been calm, strategic, patient. But this would change everything. The revolutionaries, up until now, have operated from the shadows, sabotaging from the fringes. But with Luffy dead, Dragon might take the war to the surface directly. We could see Dragon declare open war. Sabo, already branded a terrorist, would join the fight without restraint. Ivankov, Karasu, and the others would move into action. The death of Luffy could ignite the revolution earlier than anyone expected. World reactions. The ripple effect. Luffy's death wouldn't just affect his allies, the entire world would shift. Blackbeard would seize the opportunity. One of his greatest future threats is gone. With Luffy out of the picture, he could expand without interference. Buggy and Crossguild might make a comedic move, but with real consequences. Shanks would be silent at first, but when the time came, he'd move. Perhaps not to fight, but to protect what Luffy represented. Perhaps to guide the remaining Straw Hats, or to take down Blackbeard before everything spiraled further. And the Gorosei? They'd celebrate until they realized that removing Luffy only created a deeper power vacuum, and that the world would now fracture faster than they could contain it. Because Luffy's death wouldn't bring order, it would bring chaos. Vegapunk's fate. Without Luffy, one of Luffy's biggest roles on Egghead was defending Vegapunk, the scientist who holds knowledge that could destroy the world government's grip on power. Without Luffy, Kizaru likely would have completed his mission. Vegapunk, dead. The satellites, deactivated or seized. The Seraphim, his greatest creations, falling fully into government control. And with Vegapunk gone, the truth about the Void Century, about Nika, about the Ancient Kingdom, all of it would remain buried. The dream of freedom through knowledge would be erased. Egghead Island wouldn't just fall, it would become a government outpost, a tool for surveillance, control, and technological dominance. In short, a second Enies lobby. Kizaru's full potential. If unleashed in canon, Kizaru holds back. He doesn't use wide area attacks. He doesn't weaponize his full light speed travel. He fights mechanically, as if he's simply going through the motions. But what if he didn't? Imagine Kizaru warping the battlefield with constant photon strikes, disappearing, reappearing, hitting from impossible angles, using concentrated beams to melt steel and vaporize stone. Splitting entire districts with lasers, moving faster than anyone can perceive. He could have ended multiple Straw Hats before anyone had time to react. And in that moment, if he had truly committed, even Gear 5 Luffy might not have survived. Luffy's legacy without his victory. If Luffy had died here, what would his legacy be? He wouldn't have become the Pirate King. He wouldn't have reached Laugh Tale. He wouldn't have freed the world from the shadows of the Void Century, but his legacy wouldn't vanish. He already changed the world. He freed kingdoms, inspired allies, defied tyrants. He united warriors under the flag of laughter and freedom. In death, Luffy might become a martyr, the joy boy who almost was. And that legacy could become even more powerful. Zoro's burden. Let's talk about Zoro. If Luffy died, the burden would likely fall on him to keep the crew together, but that responsibility would weigh heavily. Zoro follows strength and conviction, and Luffy, to him, was the only man worthy of leading. Without him, Zoro might not try to become a leader, he might instead go on a warpath. Imagine Zoro hunting Kizaru across the seas, a swordsman versus a man of light, a doomed but unstoppable pursuit. His rage, paired with grief, could lead to a version of Zoro that's colder, more merciless, focused not on becoming the world's strongest swordsman, but on avenging his captain. The empty throne, timeline implications. With Luffy gone, the race for the One Piece continues, but it changes. Kid, Law, and other supernovas may push harder. The pirate era becomes more ruthless. The balance that Luffy maintained, simply by existing, vanishes. And if the One Piece is found without Luffy's influence, it might not be used to free the world. It might be used to control it. This is the danger of Luffy's absence. He's not just the engine of freedom, he's the brake on total domination. The contrast in conviction. Luffy's strength has always come from conviction, a refusal to give up no matter how impossible the odds. Kizaru, by contrast, lacks conviction. His power is immense, but his heart isn't in it. He follows orders, but questions them. He acts, but without passion. That's why, in canon, Luffy lives. Because when power meets will wins. But in the timeline where Kizaru kills Luffy, that hesitation never happened, and the moment conviction lost, the world lost too. Could the world recover? Eventually, someone would rise again. Another dreamer, another challenger, but it wouldn't be the same. Luffy brought something no one else did, a smile in the face of death, and a belief that being Pirate King meant being the freest man in the world, not the strongest. Without that guiding light, the seas would fall into darkness. The meaning of piracy, of freedom, of resistance, all of it would change. And while the world might go on, it wouldn't be the same world. Final thought. So, what if Kizaru had actually killed Luffy? Maybe the war would have ended, maybe the government would have won. But in killing Luffy, they wouldn't just destroy a pirate. They'd destroy the one man who believed the world could be better and had the power to prove it. What do you think? Would the world of One Piece survive without Luffy's will? Let us know in the comments.